What's up, everybody? Tony Lopez here with Alternative Living Spaces. And in today's video, I'm going to be discussing a little bit more about RV rentals. You know, in some previous videos, I talked to you about my experience with Outdoorsy. And today, I want to address the topic of how to start your own RV rental business. Let's dive right in. What I will say is I really like this business model for a few different reasons. One is it's a semi-passive type of income. You know, when you're renting something out, you're putting in work to generate the listing, put it online. Of course, you need to clean it out. But at the end of the day, that's about it. As it's being rented out and they're taking it out for several days, most of our rentals go for, on average, I'd say 7 days. Every day you're making, maybe $250 and you're doing nothing. And so for that reason, it's a really good business model. When I'm looking at different businesses and what's a good one to get into, one of the things I like to look at is scalability. Is this something that I can generate more revenue and income in and not have to put a tremendous amount of work to do so? And the reason I like this RV rental business model is it's scalable. You can have a fleet of probably 15 RVs and be able to manage it as a business of one, which is really cool. I've always been a fan of micro businesses, small businesses, and how to operate at a low overhead. And so this is a model that you can do that in. When it comes to RV rentals, you have a few different paths you can take to turn it into a business. Number one is you may have a couple RVs yourself or a friend or a family member that has one. And I would encourage you to start small. You don't want to start something big and just get into a situation where you're overwhelmed and you didn't set things up properly. So for anyone that's looking to go down this road, I'd encourage you to start with one. So maybe you have an RV in your backyard. That's how you should start. Let's go ahead and grab that. Get it cleaned out, get some beautiful pictures of it, and put it up on Outdoorsy so you can begin to get your feet wet and understand how to manage a rental and what the risks and the liabilities are. It's also going to help you understand what type of unit do you actually like to rent out and what types of units are there actually demand for. We've been doing it for about a year now, and in that process, I've learned a ton. Our first rental is a Dodge ProMaster campervan that we did as a DIY build. And I'd say the benefit of doing it as a DIY build out was we kept our costs really low. However, the downside was it took us a very long time to do that. And in that time, I probably could have actually just bought one at full price, rented it out, and made up that difference in a year of renting it out. So by choosing to do it as a DIY project, all my energy went into this first build and no time was spent learning how to do rentals. So since then we've pivoted, right? We've learned a lot. So the second rental that I bought was a Scamp trailer, a 1976 vintage Scamp. We found a really good deal on Craigslist in Arizona. We drove out there, got it, brought it back to Vegas. And this was a lesson learned though. This was a complete gut. And so we had to rip out everything on the interior, pull out the windows. We're still in the process of now rebuilding that out, and we got that months and months ago. So I started to learn something that, I don't want to buy units that number one, that I have to build out from scratch, or number two, that require complete guts. Going down that road is very time consuming. Even if you're a DIYer, it's just not a great business model or investment. What I'd encourage you to do is to instead buy a unit that has already been remodeled. So instead of buying something brand new where you're paying a ridiculous retail price, you can buy something used. If it's a drivable that still has low miles, or if it's a towable, it could be vintage and it could be 40 years old or older, but something that's already been remodeled but just needs a little bit of cosmetic touch-up, and on the interior you just need to modernize it a little bit. So a great example is one that we just got. We just got one. It's a 1978 Bowler. It's a vintage pull-behind trailer. And this unit was already remodeled. The exterior already has amazing paint. The wheels have great paint on them. And on the inside, it needs some updating. But it has really good bones. So all the updating is not going to cost us a lot. Now, we got this Bowler for $10,000. And we anticipate that we're probably going to put another $2,000 into it to really make it stand out on Outdoorsy. We want it to be really unique, really cool, and for people to just want the experience of traveling with it. So we're gonna be all in at about $12,000 with this unit. Now, what I like about it is our turnaround time, or our churn, is really quick because we got it already remodeled. The $2,000 in upgrades we're going to do can be done in just a few weeks. And within a month, we can have it listed on Outdoorsy and generating income. Now, we expect this unit to generate about $125 a night and be rented out on average about 12 nights per month. As you do the math, you quickly realize we're going to pay off our initial investment in about 1 year. And it's for this reason that I really am happy with this type of a product as an Outdoorsy rental. When it comes to the type of build that can generate the most amount of income, what I've noticed do very well are campervan conversions. Like our Dodge ProMaster, that unit on average gets $299 a night is what we have it listed at, plus you get your cleaning fee. So you can generate a lot of income with those, but you have to recognize it's also a larger upfront investment. And so a unit like that, if you're buying it maybe remodeled and used, might be $80,000, somewhere in that ballpark. You might find a deal. I've talked to people that they find crazy deals sometimes, and they're closer to $60,000 or even $50,000. But I would say those are amazing investments on Outdoorsy and on RV Share. I've noticed those do get the most consistent demand, and they're the most user-friendly. You know, a lot of different types of RV trailers and motorhomes, they can be so big and so large, especially if they're a towable, that the person renting it has to have a very heavy-duty truck or experience driving around a trailer like that. Where a drivable camper van, it's a lot smaller, so almost anyone can feel comfortable driving it. It's really simple in terms of how to get it ready to be a rental, and they perform extremely well. When it comes to how to scale your RV business, you have a few different paths you can take. So first, if you have your RV, go ahead and start there, right? You rent out your first single RV, see how it performs, get familiar with the platform. From there, it's not hard to finance 1 or 2 additional RVs. And if you have the capital, even purchasing a vintage RV is really a low-cost investment to get a small fleet. Now you could have 2, 3, maybe even 4 units. And I'd recommend if you're looking to get finance, you can go to a dealership, and they usually are running great specials at even 0% financing. I know someone that wanted to get into the rental space, and they just wanted to have an RV for themselves. It was a towable. They actually got it financed. They were all in for theirs, a little over $50,000, but it was at 0% interest, and their note on it every month compared to what they were generating as a rental just far outweighed itself. A good hack, though, to scale beyond what you can afford, if you can say, hey man, I can only afford to have a few rentals, and you want to scale to 7 rentals or 10 rentals, I would say first, you do need to get your feet wet and understand the platform, understand how the insurance works on there, understand that when you find a claim, how to report it properly. You need to understand the nuts and bolts of how it works really well first before you start taking on too many rentals. Otherwise, you're taking on a ton of liability, and when something happens and you don't handle it properly, you may end up eating that. And so I wouldn't want that to happen to you. So get familiar with the platform, learn as much as you can about how to rent out RVs and things like that. But once you're comfortable, I would recommend scaling and getting other people's RVs. So you see this in Airbnb. It's called, rental arbitrage, where you may find someone else's apartment, you rent it at a monthly rate, and then you rent that out as an Airbnb rental and generate a bunch of income. It's kind of a similar business model, but in the RV rental game. So instead, you're actually marketing to people, telling them, hey, you have an amazing RV. I've noticed you use it a couple weeks out of the year, and it just sits on your property and doesn't generate any income for you. What you can do is encourage them that you will manage their RV for them as an RV rental, a nightly rental, and you'll do a profit split with them. And you can figure out what kind of profit split makes sense. Typically, I'd recommend about a 50-50 split, where whatever income is coming in from the rental, we call that the revenue. Say that month it makes $3,000. Number one, there's a cleaning fee charge. Even if you're doing it, you can subtract that out of the total. Maybe you're at $2,600, and you had to do some supplies for the interior. Now you're at $2,400, maybe a small repair. I would just do a clean 50-50 split on it. You get $1,200, they get $1,200, and that's it. Now, if it's a really nice unit, say like it's a Mercedes Sprinter camper van and it costs $150,000, or nicer RVs that are closer to over, I'd say $80,000, that split may need to be adjusted. Maybe it's 60-40, they get 60, you get 40. or if it's a really nice unit, even a 70-30 split. But at the end of the day, it's a win-win for both parties. You're able to rent it out and cash flow and make some great additional income. They're able to rent it out and get their payment covered on it and make some extra money on top as well. The last thing you want to do in terms of running this like a business is realize there's other platforms besides Outdoorsy where you can be renting your unit on. So there's RV Share, there's RV Easy, and a number of other ones to create the opportunity for additional people to find your unit and rent it. So I'd encourage you to get on those platforms. I'm still primarily on Outdoorsy and also on RV Share, but most of our business has been through Outdoorsy. We're still learning some of the other platforms and trying to get on them also. What we do as well is a little bit of a hack, and it does depend on where you're located, is to also list your RV on Airbnb. Now there's two ways you can do this. If you have an RV that someone can very comfortably stay in and it's in a stationary location, you can do it as a nightly rental if you're in an area that doesn't have high Airbnb regulations, or you can do it as a mid-term rental. So basically, like here in Las Vegas, short-term rentals, it's really hard to get approved to do it. However, you can do rentals that are more than 30 days. And so you do see good demand. Typically, you're going to get about 20% less than if it was a nightly rental, but that's still great income that you're generating by having your RV as a 30-day rental. Now, you do want to be careful on how you manage that with your Outdoorsy. What I would say is if you go that route, you may want to capitalize on the hot seasons with Outdoorsy. And as our Outdoorsy gets slower, if you're in an area where people aren't renting as much in the winter or vice versa in the summer, then having it as a stationary setup that you can rent out more long-term could be a cool play through those months. In all, I've been really happy with renting out our RVs and continuing to develop our fleet. I hope it's an example to you of something that you can do as well, whether it's a side hustle or a full-on business. I think it's a great way to make some additional income and to enjoy life and take out your units and enjoy them on the weekend as well. We're going to have a lot more content coming out on these topics to help you navigate how to run your RV rental business. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.